So let's just start with the political aspect of gold. Basically, gold is paper money is a political instrument. It's been a political instrument since convertibility was suspended in 1971. So to me, paper money today is no different than food stamps or air miles, coupons that you would trade in at the supermarket. It is what the government wants it to be, and that's true here, and it's true in other countries around the world. And that, I think, is a fact. And so there's cultural lag involved here. We think of what I now think of as cash, paper money, as having usefulness beyond what it really is. But we really have to look at it in terms of what are the urgencies of political policy. And if you look at it in the lens of what the political establishment needs to do, that's the heart of the case as to why we're in the end game for paper currency. The end game for me is based on a couple of points. We've passed the point of no return, in my opinion. It's kind of like being on the rapids above Niagara Falls, and you can start to hear something in the distance, and there's not much we can do about it. And here are a few facts which you may well know about, but this is what kind of clinches it for me. This is based on the American Enterprise Institute. Federal spending is now 25% of GDP, and with state and local, that's 50%. 97% of the taxes are paid by half of the people, and 70% is paid by only 10%. So, as George Bernard Shaw once said, a government that robs Peter to pay Paul can always count on Paul's support. And what we have now, I think, we've kind of crossed the Rubicon sometime in the last 20 years or so. There's been a cultural degradation, and our namesake, Alexis de Tocqueville, wrote in his great book, Democracy in America, that democracies would succumb ultimately to a kind of soft despotism. You would have a kind of benevolent totalitarianism that was not beneficial, and where the exercise of free will became increasingly difficult. So the government pretends to work for the happiness of all the citizens, but it wants to be the sole provider of that happiness and their welfare. And so we have increasing numbers of the population that are trapped in this culture of dependency, and it's so embedded that having a democratic vote to change the drift that we're in, to keep us out of Niagara Falls, seems more and more challenging as every day goes by. And that comes right back to my view on the value of gold versus paper money. So where are we on the roadmap that I see for gold? When we started, I wrote something a few years ago basically saying that a bull market has 4 phases. It has the beginning, the end of the beginning of the end, it's sort of from Winston Churchill, and the end. And so where are we? Basically, at the beginning of this bull market started in 1999 when Gordon Brown trashed gold for the UK at $256 an ounce. We had just started the gold fund, so I remember it. I think, the exact moment when it hit that number. Then gold was really only for contrarians. It was basically, for us, it was like watching the paint dry. You didn't even want to talk about it. We had a guy in our office back then who had started a dot-com fund, and I was almost embarrassed to tell him that we were running gold. That was the feeling, but that was the feeling back in those early days. Somewhere along the way in the middle part of the last decade, gold started to pick up a little steam, and money started coming into space. So prices rose, there was a little bit of performance, and of course you had the dot-com bust, which made people start to think, well, gee, I've got to look around for something better than this, and of course they put money into mortgage finance and CDOs and that sort of thing. But at the end of this second phase, which I call the end of the beginning, you began to see a lot of high-profile investors come into it. I call them Johnny-come-latelys, but I'm happy for their company. John Paulson, Paul Tudor Jones, people like that, Greenlight Capital. It's not a bad thing. You don't want to be a contrarian forever. You need, ultimately, to be vindicated, you need to have company. So that's kind of where we are now. We have thought leaders, people of great stature in the investment world that are now, and in a very noisy way, positioning gold for their clients.